What's up guys, it's Legend X Rona, and today I'm finally going to be doing my roster prediction video. As you guys already know, we're going to be getting a new trailer Tuesday, so I thought I would try to hurry up and get my ideas out before this happens. Before I start the video though, I will definitely say that this was a bit harder than I thought it would be. Starting to fill out the roster was easy, but as I got closer to finishing the roster, I realized there were so many other characters that I felt should also be put onto the roster, which led me to redo this list over and over again. But with that being said, let me go ahead and get started with the actual roster list I made. Okay, so the roster when it's full will have 28 characters on it, and so far we've already seen 10 of those characters revealed, which are Aquaman, Atrocitus, Batman, Superman, Gorilla Grodd, Supergirl, Blue Beetle, Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman, and Deadshot. Not to mention Flash, who hasn't exactly been revealed yet, but we do know he is going to be in the game due to him being in the Injustice 2 trailer. This means that there are 17 more characters that we have yet to see and can be added onto the roster. So the way I did this is I divided it up by adding 7 more female characters and 10 more male characters. Ed promised fans that there will be more girls on the Injustice 2 roster, which is needed after the upset that we had with the Mortal Kombat X roster, which had 7 females on it, DLC included, and the first Injustice game having 8 females on it with DLC included. So I feel that 10 will be a better main roster improvement instead of 6 that MKX and Injustice 1 had from the initial main roster, plus any possible DLC characters. Now, I don't want this video to be too long, so I will mention a character and briefly tell why I think that they will be in the game. So here are the characters who I think will be added onto the main roster when Injustice 2 is released. Okay, so first I'm going to start off with the obvious due to them pretty much already being confirmed to be in the game. As some of you may already know, Dr. Fate and Captain Cold have pretty much already been confirmed to be in the game due to the Injustice 2 shirts having both Dr. Fate's helmet and Captain Cold's freeze gun as icons on the shirt. Not to mention the times that Ed Boon acknowledged tweets about each of these characters, so I'm pretty sure that with all that being said, we can expect to see Dr. Fate and Captain Cold make it onto the Injustice 2 roster. With all the sudden news and teasers that we've gotten lately, something was bound to eventually leak out, which of course we now know that Darkseid will be in the game. For some of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the PlayStation Store accidentally leaked that Darkseid will be an additional character if you pre-order the game. Now I know that some of you may be thinking, well, that's DLC then. Well, if you look back when the same thing happened with Goro in Mortal Kombat X, you'll see that though he was a pre-order bonus, he still had a slot on the initial main roster, but was only unlocked if you pre-ordered the game. So in a sense, though Darkseid will be a bonus character, he's still kind of included on the initial main roster. So we can expect possibly to see him revealed very soon, which I'm thinking more than likely of course will be on Tuesday, and he will be added onto the game's main roster. Now personally I feel like Joker is pretty much a staple to any DC game, so I feel like it's only something that we can expect to see him make it onto the roster. We all know that he died in the alternate universe, but I don't think that that will stop him from being in the game, definitely considering that he is still alive in the main universe. With all the hype from the Suicide Squad movie, Joker being an iconic villain, and with people already requesting him frequently to be into the game, it's only reasonable that we could expect to see him put onto the roster at some point before the game is released. Now considering the fact that we already have Atrocitus in the game and the fact that he's an important member of the Justice League, it's only reasonable that Green Lantern makes his way onto the roster. Now he's been a character that we've all expected to see revealed sometime soon, but we haven't seen him make his way into the roster just yet. And I'm thinking maybe that could possibly be because we might be getting a different Green Lantern other than Hal Jordan for Injustice 2. My choice for a Green Lantern would be John Stewart, though many people think that it could be Jessica Cruz as Green Lantern, but we could always get multiple Green Lanterns in the game due to the game's gear system, so regardless, I think that Green Lantern will be another character who will be revealed in the game later before it's released. Swamp Thing was mentioned in the voting poll a while back from Ed Boon that had him, Blue Beetle, and Captain Cold on it. Now as we already know, Blue Beetle was already revealed to be in the game, and like I said before, Captain Cold is pretty much confirmed to be in the game as well. So I feel that this voting poll is actually a poll of characters who are already going to be in the game, with the winner having been the next character to be revealed for the game, which we already saw Blue Beetle revealed after the voting poll. Swamp Thing is a character that people have frequently been asking for since the first Injustice game, so I feel that Swamp Thing will have a chance this time around and will be added onto the roster at some point. Catwoman is a very popular female character in the DC universe, and she's often been asked to make a return in Injustice 2. Ed did respond to a tweet asked about her being in the game with a pretty hopeful and positive response, so I think that it is a good possibility that she will be in the game. Quoting Ed again, he did make the promise of more females being in the game, and with her being a very popular and demanded female, I'm sure that she will be one of the characters who will be on the main roster. Black Canary is a character that some people thought was going to be a DLC character in the first Injustice game after some concept art was released around the time of the second DLC pack, but it turned out she wasn't put into the game. Currently she's a female who's being demanded to be in the game, and Ed has acknowledged a few tweets about her that fans have been asking about her being in Injustice 2. I think that she would be a great addition to the game with her screaming abilities and her expertise in martial arts, and I think that her gameplay will be pretty cool in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would be happy to have her added into the game as one of the characters who will be on the main roster. Starfire is another female who is often asked to be in the game and a character who I also think will be put onto the main roster. She's been mentioned a few times by Ed Boon, with the first time being the time he mentioned her on a Twitter poll asking, "Just for fun, Injustice 2, who do you want to see the most?" Having won the poll, I think that Starfire will have some kind of chance of being put into the game, and she will be a character that we can expect to see on the main roster. Now, Black Adam has a few reasons to why I think that he will be on the roster when the game is released. Ed mentioned him randomly once when someone had asked him about Black Canary being in the game. Having been randomly mentioned, I do feel like that does mean something. Also, for some of you who don't know, Black Adam is supposed to be in an upcoming Shazam movie in the future. As I stated before, I think that NetherRealm Studios will base some of their character choices for the roster on the entertainment business. With Black Adam being in a future movie and Ed Boon randomly mentioning him in a tweet, I do think that Black Adam is a character that we can expect to see on the Injustice 2 roster. Now, of course, if we have Black Adam, I feel like we will have Shazam as well. I will say that my main reason for Shazam being on the roster is mainly because Black Adam being on the roster. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they can't have it to where only one of them is on the main roster, but personally I just don't see them having only one of them. They're going to have characters return from the first Injustice game, so I don't see why not have both of them make a return if you're going to have one of them return. Regardless, I think that they are both characters that we can expect to see added onto the main roster for Injustice 2. Poison Ivy is a character who is really often demanded to be in the game, which makes me believe that she will eventually be added onto the roster. She was mentioned in a few tweets by Ed a while back, with one of them saying that she definitely has a chance of being on the roster. I think her powers to manipulate plants would be something that's new and unique to gameplay for Injustice. With there still being more females to be added in the game, I definitely think that Poison Ivy will be on the roster when the game is released. Being demanded by so many fans, it's only expected that Red Hood will be on the main roster. So many people wanted Red Hood to be in the first Injustice game, and though he wasn't, the demand for him to be in the next game has grown even stronger. With that being noted, Ed has mentioned Red Hood several times in his tweets by putting him in polls with other characters and even talking about how he sees how many people really want him to be in the game. So there's definitely more than enough reasons to believe that Red Hood will eventually be added onto the roster before the game is released in May. I think Raven could be a returning character for Injustice 2's roster due to Trigon possibly playing some kind of role in the story. Trigon was talked about a bit in the last game, so him playing a role is something that I could possibly see happening. If he is going to play some kind of role in the game, then I feel that they would have to have Raven in the game, because more than likely she will be the one to play the role in dealing with him. Honestly, I thought that Trigon could be the main villain for the game, but seeing how Darkseid will be in the game, then I don't really just see this being something that could happen anymore. But if for some crazy reason that Darkseid wasn't the main villain, then I definitely see Trigon being the main villain, which would give Raven more reason to be in the game. Regardless, I think that Trigon could have some kind of role in the story that maybe could even lead up to another story for the next game after Injustice 2. So Raven could be necessary to be in the game for that case, and I do think that she could have a chance of being on the main roster then. Now, my reasons for Hawkgirl possibly returning onto the Injustice 2 roster are small, but I do think that she does have that chance still of possibly returning in the game. She's an iconic female in the DC universe. She has appeared in a lot of hit DC shows such as The Flash, Arrow, and The Legends of Tomorrow, which gives her some kind of current relevance, and I just personally see her playing some kind of role in the story. She did play a slight role in the previous game, helping the evil Superman in the alternate universe, so I feel that maybe she could play some kind of role again in the new story. In my opinion, I felt that she had some pretty good gameplay in the last game, so I don't see why not just have her return again for this game and add her onto the main roster. I feel like Cyborg will make a return onto the Injustice 2 roster mainly due to the current entertainment business. As most of you already know, the Justice League movie will be coming out later on this year, so I feel like with him being a main member of the Justice League, NetherRealm Studios will take advantage of that and make him a returning character for the Injustice 2 roster. As some of you may have already known, all the characters who are going to be in the Justice League movie are pretty much been confirmed to be in the game except for Cyborg, so I feel like this gives him even more of a reason to actually make a return in the game. Having played a pretty significant role in the last game and having good gameplay in my opinion as well, I don't really see too much of a reason to not have Cyborg return for the Injustice 2 main roster. Katana is a character that I'm sure most of you didn't know too much about until she was in the Suicide Squad movie. I feel like she would be a pretty cool new female character to have added into the game and could have some really cool unique gameplay using her swords. Now my main reasons for choosing her to be on the Injustice 2 roster is because there's going to be a decent amount of females that they will have on the roster, so why not have her? She currently has some kind of relevance in the entertainment business thanks to the Suicide Squad movie, and if you guys haven't noticed, one of the silhouettes that's been on the Injustice 2 roster so far is actually a silhouette of Katana from Mortal Kombat. Now I know that some of you might be thinking that, well, those are just placeholders for the characters, but if that's all that it is, then why is it that when that slot got filled with a new character they decided to move the silhouette somewhere else on the roster? I mean, if it's just a placeholder, then why is it still there? Then some of you can also make the argument, that Katana could be added as a guest character for MK, but based off Ed's tweet and the poll that he made about the MK guest characters, it doesn't seem too much like there's plans to even have her as a guest character. So I feel that with Katana and Katana having similar names, then maybe that's some kind of Easter egg hint that we might have her added onto the roster. With that being said, this is my reason for having her added onto my list of characters who I think will be added onto the Injustice 2 roster, and I do think that she does have a good chance of being one of the characters who will be on the main roster when the game is released. So these are the initial characters who I think that we could possibly have on the main roster when the game releases in May. Let me just say that this was really hard making this list because there are so many characters who I think could be added onto this list or just be added onto the main roster in general. With that being said, I did make an extra list of characters as substitutes for a few characters I chose on my list. Now my main purpose for doing this is because there are some character choices on my list who I think could possibly be switched with another character if there's a better reason for them to be in instead. So here are the characters on my list that I think could possibly be replaced. Now as you can see, the characters who I have that could probably be replaced are Shazam, Raven, Hawkgirl, and even Red Hood. Now before you start attacking me in the comments or smashing the dislike button, give me a second to explain why Red Hood is on this list. So the reasons of course to why I have these characters as replaceable characters are for a few simple reasons. Like I said before, Raven could play a role in the story if Trigun had some kind of role in the story, but if he doesn't, then there isn't too much of a reason other than wanting her to really just have her make a return in the game. As far as Shazam goes, I mainly chose him on my list due to me choosing Black Adam on my list as well, but I know I said before that I can't really see either of them not both being in the game. But if they really just wanted to have only Black Adam, then they're gonna only have Black Adam. So, he could still be replaced off my list. And as far as Hawkgirl, she is a well-known female in the DC universe, but I don't think it's to the point where she exactly has to be on the roster. So she could also be replaced if they could think of another female who deserves a better spot on the roster than her. But with all that being said, I think that any of these characters could be replaced with characters like Green Arrow, who is a character I really like and a character who I think a lot of people would like to see return in the game. I think he could have really cool gear system where he could possibly change into Red Arrow, or we could even get Red Arrow instead of Green Arrow and have Red Arrow change into Green Arrow. But either ways, I think that he could possibly be in the game. Lex Luthor, though he died, he is a very iconic villain in DC Universe, and they could always use a Lex Luthor from the main universe instead, which is pretty much the same thing with Green Arrow, because I know some of you might make the argument that Green Arrow died. Well, you know, they could use the Green Arrow in the main universe. Martian Manhunter was a character that was often demanded to be in the last game, and he was eventually put in as DLC, so I think that maybe this time around he could be on the main roster and play some kind of role in the story. Zatanna, pretty much for the same reason as Martian Manhunter, she was put in the last game as DLC, so why not have her on the main roster this time? And then Robin, who personally I like a whole lot, but at the same time I could really do without him. But if you ever have that small feeling that something could go wrong when you really want something, then that's kind of what I'm getting at. I just have that feeling that maybe there's a small chance that NetherRealm Studios might try to pull some shit and make Robin as a character on the roster and try to make Red Hood and possibly Nightwing as a gear change character for Robin instead. Now, I wouldn't mind having Nightwing again because I do like him as well, but I would much rather have Red Hood considering that Nightwing was in the last game. And I would much rather have Red Hood as his own character instead of a gear change character, but I thought I would just go ahead and try to mention that because I do think that there is a small chance that it could happen. I mean, Ed has already mentioned the Robin Damian Wayne being in the voting poll, who was also Nightwing in the alternate universe in the last game, so you never know. But I do feel like this is a possibility, so let me know your thoughts on this possibly happening in the comments below, because I do feel like this would piss off a lot of people. Now, before I end this video, I want to briefly discuss a bit about a possible DLC Pack 1 for Injustice 2. As most of you guys know, Ed has already talked a bit about having certain guest characters in the game such as Spawn and Sub-Zero, so I think it's safe to assume that they will eventually be DLC characters for the game. Now, for the first pack, I don't know exactly how they will be doing it. Will they possibly be doing something like with Mortal Kombat X where they had 2 guest characters and 2 actual characters from their universe, or will they be doing something different instead? Honestly, I'm thinking that they will do something like what they did with Mortal Kombat X, just because how they are towards wanting guest characters in their games and due to how the hype was for Mortal Kombat X when it was released. So I do think that for the first pack, Spawn and Sub-Zero will both be in it. As far as characters who are from the actual DC universe, there hasn't been too many hints towards any of them being DLC in the game, other than the leaked information of Darkseid being a pre-order bonus if you pre-order Injustice 2. But if I had to choose 2 DC Universe characters to be in DLC Pack 1 for Injustice 2, I'd probably say Beast Boy and Static Shock. My reasons for this is because Beast Boy is a highly demanded character to be in Injustice 2, but with that being said, I just don't see NetherRealm Studios actually putting him onto the main roster, and that's mainly because I feel like there will be a lot of work that would have to go into his gameplay due to him being able to change into different animals, so I feel like that would be something that would be kind of hard to do. I mean, I really want Beast Boy to be in the game more than any other character, but I just don't see this actually happening. Plus, I feel like NetherRealm Studios might feel like it would be more profitable to actually make him a DLC character instead of having him on the main roster just because he's so demanded. And as far as Static Shock goes, he was demanded way back in the first Injustice game and a lot of people wanted him in, but he wasn't. However, he was in the mobile version of the game where he had his own moveset and a super move, so I feel like they could easily just transfer that over into Injustice 2, make improvements on it, and even possibly change his character design and easily make him a DLC character for Injustice 2. So here are my full thoughts on a possible DLC Pack 1 and for the main roster in Injustice 2. Like I said before, doing this was a lot harder than I thought it would actually be due to all the possible character choices in the DC universe that could possibly be in the game. The problem though is that NetherRealm Studios doesn't always listen to what the fans have to say, mainly due to them having to keep the story in mind when creating the roster. I just hope that they try to at least listen to us a bit more instead of what they did with Mortal Kombat X, because there was so much controversy when it came to choosing characters on the main roster and with the Combat Pack DLC characters. But what do you guys think about the characters that I chose to be on the Injustice 2 roster? I know I rambled on for quite a long time, but do you agree with any of the characters that I chose on the list, or do you have your own list of characters who you think will be on the main roster for Injustice 2? Be sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, I'd really appreciate the support. And if you're new to my channel, check out my other videos and subscribe for more Injustice 2 videos. This is Legend X Ronin, and I'll see you guys later.